After their mother died, my lawyer said people thought I was crazy. My son begged me to think again, but I signed every paper they gave me without reading even one word. They smiled at each other across the table, thinking they had beaten me. Then Margaret's lawyer cleared his throat and said there was one more paper to look at. Their faces turned white when he read the first sentence. But before we continue, where are you watching this from? Write your city in the comments. I read every single one. My name is Thomas Whitmore, and I'm 67 years old. For the past 4 years, I lived what I thought was a second chance at being happy with my wife Margaret in our home just outside Calgary. She died 3 weeks ago. Heart attack. It happened so fast with no warning. One moment she was laughing at something on TV. The next she was gone. The paramedics said she probably didn't feel any pain. I'm not sure if that makes it better or worse. Margaret had 2 daughters from her first marriage. Vanessa, 32, works keeping track of money for big companies in Toronto. Rebecca, 29, runs a small business helping other businesses with their advertising in Vancouver. Both successful, both fancy, both completely sure that I had tricked their mother into marrying me for her money. The truth? Margaret chased after me first. We met at a group for sad people who lost someone they loved. She'd lost her first husband to cancer 5 years before we met. I'd lost my wife Elena to the same sickness 7 years earlier. We understood each other's sadness in a way that no one else could. We weren't looking for love. We were just 2 broken people who found comfort sitting quietly together. My son Christopher is 35. He teaches high school math in Edmonton. Makes maybe $53,000 a year. Lives in a small apartment. Drives a 12-year-old Honda. Never asked me for anything. When I told him I was marrying Margaret, he just hugged me and said he was happy I wouldn't be alone anymore. Margaret had built a successful business bringing special foods from Europe to sell here. Nothing huge, but it made good money. Her house in the suburbs was worth about $8 million. She had money invested in different places worth another $2 million, maybe a bit more. The business itself made steady money, good retirement money. I brought nothing to the marriage except my pension and the small house Elena and I had bought when Christopher was born. Margaret didn't care. She said she'd rather live simply with someone who actually loved her than die wealthy and lonely. We had 4 good years. Really good years. We traveled. We laughed. We built a life together. She never once made me feel like I was anything less than her equal partner. The day after Margaret's funeral, Vanessa and Rebecca came to the house. They didn't knock. They still had keys from before I moved in. I was sitting in the living room, still wearing the suit from the funeral service. Christopher had just left to drive back to Edmonton. He'd offered to stay longer, but I told him I needed some time alone. Vanessa walked in first. Fancy suit, hair pulled back, so tight it looked like it hurt. Rebecca followed, equally polished. They didn't say they were sorry. They didn't ask how I was doing. Vanessa pulled out her phone and started scrolling through something. "Thomas, we need to talk about the money and property our mom left," she said. "No hello. No sitting down, just straight to business. Your mother just died yesterday," I said quietly. "Which is exactly why we need to handle this now," Rebecca interrupted. "Before things get complicated." I stared at them. Complicated? Vanessa finally looked up from her phone. "You were married to our mother for 4 years. Thomas, for years. Rebecca and I are her real children. We've been her daughters our entire lives." "I know that," I said. "Then you understand why we need you to sign these papers." Rebecca put a folder on the coffee table. "Our lawyer prepared everything. It's a simple paper saying you're giving up any right to Mom's money and property. The house, the business, the investments, all of it." I didn't touch the folder. "Your mother and I were married. Alberta law says married people share property. We know what the law says." Vanessa snapped. "We also know you didn't add a single dollar to anything she built. You moved into her house. You enjoyed her success. And now that she's gone, you think you deserve half of everything?" "I never said that. You don't have to say it. The law would give it to you automatically if you fought us." Rebecca sat down across from me. Her voice got softer, but her eyes stayed cold. "Look, Thomas, we're trying to be reasonable here. We're not kicking you out on the street. We're offering you $300,000. That's really generous, considering you brought nothing to this marriage. $300,000, I repeated. Cash. Within 60 days, you sign these papers. You move out within 90 days, and you walk away with more money than you probably had in your entire life before you met our mother." The words hung in the air like poison. I thought about Margaret, about how she'd warned me gently that her daughters had become focused on getting her money after their father died, how they'd stopped calling unless they wanted something, how they'd skipped our wedding because they said they couldn't get time off work. And if I don't sign, I asked, Vanessa's face got hard. Then we fight you in court. We have lawyers who will tie this up in court for years. We'll argue that you had too much control over our mother, that she wasn't thinking clearly when she married you, that you kept her away from her family. I never kept Margaret away from anyone. You two barely visited. That's your word against ours, Rebecca said smoothly. And we have emails, text messages, proof of how our relationship with Mom got worse after you came into the picture. I looked at these two women, Margaret's daughters. She'd show me photos of them as children, smiling, playing, full of life. I couldn't match those pictures with the cold strangers sitting in my living room, trying to bully me out of everything their mother had built. I need to think about this, I said. Think fast, Vanessa said, standing up. We'll be back in 3 days. If you haven't signed by then, our offer goes down to $200,000. And if you still refuse, we start taking you to court. She stopped at the door. Oh, and Thomas, change the locks if you want. This is our mother's house. We'll just get a court order. They left. The folder stayed on the coffee table, like a dangerous snake. I called Christopher that evening, told him everything. He was furious. Dad, you can't let them do this. Get a lawyer. Fight them. I'm tired, son, I said. I just buried my wife. I don't have the energy to fight her daughters. Then let me fight for you. I'll find a lawyer. I'll handle everything. Christopher, no. I appreciate it, but no. He was quiet for a long moment. They're wrong about you, Dad. You know that, right? You made Mom happy. That's worth more than all her money combined. I couldn't speak because I was too choked up. 3 days later, Vanessa and Rebecca came back. Same expensive clothes, same entitled expressions. I'd barely slept, barely eaten. The house felt too big and too empty without Margaret. Have you made your decision? Vanessa asked. I nodded. I'll sign. Rebecca actually smiled. Smart choice. Really, Thomas. This is better for everyone. You get a fresh start. We keep what our mother built, and nobody has to waste money on lawyers. When can we get this done? I asked. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Our lawyer's office downtown. Bring identification. Vanessa was already heading for the door. Oh, and start packing. We want to sell the house by the end of the month. That night, I sat in the study where Margaret used to work. Her reading glasses were still on the desk. A half-finished crossword puzzle sat next to her favorite pen. I picked up the pen and turned it over my hands, remembering how she'd chew on the cap when she was thinking. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Whitmore, this is Patricia Hammond. I was your wife's lawyer. Oh, hello, Miss Hammond. Please call me Patricia. I heard about Margaret's death. I'm so very sorry for your loss. She was a remarkable woman. Thank you, Mr. Whitmore. I understand that Margaret's daughters have talked to you about the money and property she left. I froze. How did you know that? Because Margaret thought it would happen. That's why I'm calling. You have a meeting scheduled tomorrow at 10 a.m., correct? Yes. To sign papers giving up my right to the estate. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Mr. Whitmore, I'm Margaret's estate lawyer. I prepare her will. I can promise you that whatever papers Vanessa and Rebecca have prepared, they don't match what your wife wanted. What do you mean? I mean, you need to go to that meeting tomorrow. But before you sign anything, I need be there. Please don't argue with me on this. It's what Margaret wanted. I don't understand. You will tomorrow at 10 o'clock. What's the address? I gave her the information. Patricia, what's going on? Margaret loved you very much, Mr. Whitmore. She also knew her daughters better than they think she did. Just trust me. Go to the meeting. Don't sign anything until I arrive. She hung up before I could ask anything else. The next morning, I put on my best suit, the same one I'd worn to Margaret's funeral. Christopher had wanted to come with me, but I told him to stay in Edmonton. This was something I needed to handle alone. The law office was in one of those glass towers downtown, 30th floor. The receptionist directed me to a conference room where Vanessa, Rebecca, and a man in an expensive suit were waiting. Thomas. Good. You're on time. Vanessa pointed to a chair. This is Lawrence Chun, our lawyer. Chun stood and shook my hand. Firm grip, calculating eyes. Mr. Whitmore, I understand you agreed to the deal. I have all the papers prepared. This shouldn't take more than 15 minutes. I thought I should have my own lawyer here, I said. Rebecca's face got tight. That wasn't part of our deal. We didn't have a deal. You made an offer. I said I'd think about it. You said you'd sign, Vanessa said sharply. I said I'd come to this meeting, and I have. Chin cleared his throat. Mr. Whitmore, of course, you're allowed to have a lawyer. However, I should point out that delaying this will only cost everyone more money. These papers are simple. You're just saying that you're giving up your spousal rights to the estate in exchange for the settlement amount. $300,000. I said, correct. And what exactly am I giving up rights to? Chin pulled out a folder. Mrs. Whitmore's estate includes a house at 4127 Pinewood Crescent, valued at about $8 million. Her business, Heritage Imports, with stuff worth roughly $1.4 million, money invested worth $2.3 million, and various other accounts, bringing the total estate value to about $7 million. So, you're offering me less than 5% of what my wife left behind. Vanessa leaned forward. Our mother left behind, and you're getting far more than you deserve for 4 years of marriage. The door opened. Patricia Hammond walked in. She was probably in her mid-50s, wearing a navy suit, carrying a leather briefcase. Everything about her showed competence and authority. I'm sorry I'm late, she said pleasantly. Traffic was terrible. Chin stood. I'm sorry, who are you? Patricia Hammond. I'm Mr. Whitmore's lawyer. And more importantly, I was Margaret Whitmore's estate lawyer. She set her briefcase on the table and looked at Vanessa and Rebecca. Hello, girls. It's been a while. Rebecca's face had gone pale. What are you doing here? Representing my client's interests and making sure that his late wife's wishes are properly carried out. Patricia pulled out a chair next to me and sat down. Now then, Mr. Chun, I understand you prepared some papers for Mr. Whitmore to sign. Chun recovered quickly. Yes, an agreement where Mr. Whitmore gives up his spousal claims to the estate in exchange for a cash payment. How much? $300,000. Patricia didn't even blink. I see. And you told your clients that this is appropriate payment given the short time of the marriage and Mr. Whitmore's lack of money added to the estate. Yes. Interesting. Patricia opened her briefcase and removed a document. Because I have Margaret Whitmore's last will right here, written 8 days before her death. Would you like to know what it says? The room went absolutely silent. Vanessa found her voice first. Our mother died of a sudden heart attack. She didn't have time to change her will. Actually, Margaret came to my office specifically to update her, 2 weeks before she died. She said she had a feeling. I tried to tell her she was being gloomy, but she insisted. Patricia looked at me. She loved you very much. Thomas. She wanted to make sure you were protected. Protected from what? Rebecca demanded. Patricia smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. From exactly the situation. Margaret predicted quite accurately that her daughters would try to pressure Thomas into giving up his rights to the estate. She opened the will. Shall I read the important parts? This is ridiculous, Vanessa said. Whatever paper you have, it can't take away our rights as her real children. You're absolutely right. It doesn't take away your rights. It spells them out very clearly. Patricia began reading. I, Margaret and Whitmore, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will. To my beloved husband, Thomas Whitmore, I leave our home at 4127 Pinewood Crescent, all contents inside, my share Heritage Imports, and all of my money invested. Rebecca jumped to her feet. That's impossible. She wouldn't cut us out completely. I didn't say she cut you out. Please sit down, Rebecca. Patricia waited until Rebecca slowly sank back into her chair. To my daughters, Vanessa and Rebecca, I leave the sum of $100,000 each to be given immediately after probate. $100,000 each? Vanessa's voice was shaking. That's it. Out of a $7 million estate. $7 million, Chin corrected quietly. He looked uncomfortable now. Patricia wasn't finished. However, there is a special condition. Let me read it exactly as Margaret wrote it. She looked at Vanessa and Rebecca. If either or both of my daughters try to fight this will, pressure my husband to give up his rights, or take any legal action to claim a bigger share of my estate within 120 days of my death, they will lose their inheritance completely. In that case, their share will be given to the Alberta Cancer Foundation. Nobody spoke. You could have heard a pin drop in that conference room. Vanessa finally found her voice. This is insane. She wasn't thinking clearly. Thomas tricked her. Patricia pulled out another document. I have a psychological test dated 1 week before the will was written. Margaret went through brain testing at my recommendation. Perfect score. She was completely sound of mind. And before you ask, I have 3 witnesses to the signing, including a doctor. Why would she do this? Rebecca's voice was barely a whisper. Because she knew. You. Patricia's voice softened slightly. Margaret told me everything, girls. About how you stopped calling after she married Thomas. About how you skipped her wedding. About how every conversation became about your future inheritance. She said you looked at her like a retirement fund instead of your mother. That's not true, Vanessa protested weakly. Isn't it? You arrived at your mother's house today after her funeral, demanding that Thomas sign away his rights. You didn't ask how he was doing. You didn't say you were sorry for his loss. You immediately started calculating how to maximize your share of her estate. Rebecca was crying now, actual tears running down her carefully made-up face. We loved our mother. Maybe you did, but you loved her money more. And Margaret knew it. Patricia turned to Chun. Mr. Chun, I assume your clients told you they were the main people getting the inheritance. Chun's jaw was tight. They told me they expected to inherit the estate. Yes. Then you were working with wrong information. I suggest you discuss payment with Vanessa and Rebecca. I have a feeling they may have trouble paying you now. Chun stood. Vanessa, Rebecca, I think we need to discuss this privately. There's nothing to discuss. Vanessa spat. This will is fake. We're going to fight it. Then you'll get nothing, Patricia said calmly. Not $1. I'll personally make sure that the Cancer Foundation gets every penny Margaret meant for you. Is that really what you want? To honor your mother's memory by proving she was right about you? The question hung in the air. Vanessa looked at Rebecca. Rebecca looked at the floor. Slowly, they gathered their things and left the conference room without another word. Chin followed, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. I sat there still trying to understand everything I just heard. Patricia closed her briefcase and looked at me kindly. Are you all right, Thomas? Margaret knew, I said quietly. She knew they'd do this. Yes. She was heartbroken about it, but she wasn't surprised. She said her daughters had become strangers to her over the years, that they called on her birthday and Christmas, but only to ask about her health and whether she'd updated her estate plan. I never wanted her money. She knew that, too. That's why she loved you. You saw her as Margaret, not as an ATM machine. Patricia stood. The house is yours. The business is yours. Everything she built is yours. That's what she wanted. Can you live with that? I thought about Margaret, about our 4 years together, about how she'd hold my hand while we watched TV, about how she'd laugh at my terrible jokes, about how she'd tell me she felt like she'd been given a second chance at happiness. I can live with it, I said, but I'm going to do something with that money, something Margaret would approve of. 3 months later, I started the Margaret Whitmore Foundation. It gives scholarships to older students going back to school after losing a spouse. Every penny from Margaret's invested money went into it. I kept the house because it was our home, and I can't quite bring myself to leave it yet. The business I signed over to the manager who'd been running it for years. Margaret had always said she trusted him more than anyone. Christopher helped me set everything up. He didn't want me to give the money away. He said I deserved it after what Margaret's daughters put me through. But I told him it wasn't about deserving. It was about honoring Margaret's memory in a way that would have made her proud. Vanessa and Rebecca took their $100,000 each. They never fought the will. I heard through people we both knew that Vanessa's husband left her shortly after. Apparently, he'd been counting on a larger inheritance, too. Rebecca sold her advertising business and moved back to Calgary, though I've never run into her. I don't hate them. I'm not even angry anymore. I just feel sad for them. Sad that they'll never know what they lost. Not the money, but the chance to really know their mother in those final years. The chance to see her happy and loved and whole after so many years of grief. I'm 67 years old. I live alone in a house that's too big for one person. But every morning I have coffee in the kitchen where Margaret used to read her crossword puzzles. Every evening I sit in the living room where we watched our favorite shows. And sometimes when it's very quiet, I swear I can still hear her laugh. Christopher visits every weekend now. He says he doesn't want me to be lonely. I think he just likes the home-cooked meals. He's a good son, the kind of son who never once asked about inheritance, who only asked if I was okay. That's the difference, I suppose, between people who love you and people who love what you can give them. Margaret knew that difference, and she made sure that in death, she could protect the people who actually mattered. So if you're watching this and you're thinking about your own legacy, think about this. Your will isn't just about giving away stuff. It's your final message to the people you leave behind. Make sure it says what you really mean. If this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button. Share your own experiences in the comments. And remember, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about living well and honoring the people who truly loved you. Until next time, this is Thomas Whitmore reminding you that family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about who shows up when it really matters.